What up, guys? It's n0thing Gilbert, and today's episode of AORUS Pro Tips for episode 3, we're going to be talking about aggressive peaks with a little bit of entry fragging stuff just to kind of illuminate the discussion. Now, today's episode is filmed and played on this AORUS 15P laptop. Features an Intel Core 11th Gen CPU, and if you got more info on the specs, we'll probably show them on the screen here, and then the description below will have a link for more information. Now we're going to jump in game. I chose Dust 2 to talk about today's lesson. And like I said, I want to talk about aggressive peaks and peaking in general, but also a lot of peaking has to do with entry fragging in a lot of scenarios. Yeah, if you're just peaking a corridor, you're not worried about necessarily your teammates behind you, but a lot of peaks into greater areas, you want to be worrying about your teammates. Now, I know what you're going to say. In matchmake, nobody's worried about me, so why should I worry about my teammates? Guys, let's just focus on what you could do to be better. I'll show you how you can improve your score, but also how you could improve your team's score overall. So there's a couple of different reasons you peak something, right? It's to clear it and get the frag. It's to get info and maybe stay alive, or it's to create space for your team and maybe inevitably die. That's normally the entry fragging side of things. What I wanted to talk about is peaking versus riflers and oppers and kind of the different ways that you can practice peaking and jiggling. So first off, to understand jiggle peaking for aggressive plays is key. And all it really is peaking fast like this, to where you can't actually see them, but they can see your shoulder. So right here, the person that's standing there can see my shoulder. Maybe if they're deep over there, they can't see my shoulder. And that's where jiggle peeking gets a little tough because you have to be off the wall versus on it at some angles. So this one's a little harder. And you kind of just got to know that, hey, there can be an opera there. Those are the common angles. And you kind of have to just jiggle those a little bit. And you're not always going to do it perfect. There's not a way to do it perfect every time. You just have to practice this. Now, jiggling's key. But if you have a bunch of teammates behind you, jiggling is normally pretty bad unless you think they have no op. The only time I'd recommend like over jiggling with your team behind you is if you think you're trying to find a rifler. Because generally if you spot an M4 player or whatever rifle AUG and you shoot him like this, he might stay and fight you. But a lot of times like they have a fallback plan. Like if people are here and they don't get the kill right when you jiggle, they're going to fall back and throw a flash or X, Y, and Z. Same here. They might spot, fall, throw a flash, come back, you know. No matter what rank you are, there's going to be some form of plan, and you got to be ready for that. So, jiggling is good. The only time it's not good is when you're going to jiggle, and he's just going to probably kill you anyways, and then it doesn't help your teammate have space. So if there's an opera in a position like this, it's very tough because you can't really get past his angle. That's kind of a separate conversation where smokes come into play. More of a shallow smoke like this is really good because it gives you options to work around. You'll kind of want it to be more centered, and you can kind of like lurk around the smoke different ways. Separate conversation. When there is an opera, fast forward these smokes. Generally, the idea for aggressive peaks is you want to cross whatever angle they are at with the most speed or movement possible. So angles that come to mind are that one, right? A lot of operas don't really play there because they don't like to get pinned in the corner after a shot. They like to play spots where they can move after. So that spot, and that spot. So all these spots, you can only really account for so many with certain movement. So for instance, if I think he's sight, I'm going to do like a jump like that. Yeah, he might leg me, but the idea here is you help your teammates get in sight. And a lot of times you'd be surprised. Going first, you think is always just, you're going to die for sure, but you don't die as much as you think. So when you're entry fragging, this is the little bit of entry fragging that I just wanted to point out. Entry fragging is about two things: choosing a place to pre-aim and a path, right? The last thing about peeking, this thing about peeking ties in entry fragging, which is movement and how you peek. But entry fragging itself is generally like, you could, if you don't think it has an op, you could just run like this if you think he's in sight. Because if you're close to the angle, it's still pretty hard to him to react, and you at least are going to create space for your teammate next to you to peek and get the frag. So remember, this is two different things: peeking by yourself, which I want to get back into, and peeking with a team. So with a team, it's generally about getting out wide so your team can flood in next to you. I think it's a very key thing to understand. Baiting in that sense, guys, is a huge part of Counter-Strike. In baiting in someone hiding in T-spawn AFK is not. And so a lot of people think baiting is just one term and it's bad no matter what. No, baiting is and trade fragging and that kind of thing is key. And even if they don't get the kill, baiting is still a big part of things because you don't want to just line up for someone to kill all you. You need to create space between the players, right? Now, other types of peaks that I want you guys to employ that I don't think people do enough are info peaks. Just because you go to peek an area, it doesn't mean you're committing to the fight. So, common spots they play, like we already went over, there. So that's like 6 spots, right, or whatever. Like, jiggle peeking wide versus a non-opper round is pretty solid. Or like right there, backside, I like this one. Kind of do a little jump move off the box and see if he's there. Walk in, jiggle this. If he's there, this one might be a committed fight. It's a little harder to do it. Or you can, once you clear this, you can step to the back wall. Boom, clear those 2 angles. Just by doing that, this simplifies the fights you're about to take. Because say you jump there, yeah, they might hear you close tunnels, but then you don't really care. A guy who hears you close tunnels from here is going to stay here, and that's to your advantage. Because now you can take fights you want, right, with less guessing. So now you can peek this one a little bit more determined. Or if you want to avoid that angle, because it's really hard for them to kill you with a rifle, you just say, okay, I know they're not there. Could be hiding plat. I'm going to step out, make noise. Making noise, and now you're going to come back and hold this angle. That's boom. I just cleared like 4 spots because what's going to happen is if you make noise and he's like, oh, that's his cue, he's going to peek you. So when you're aggressively peeking at a site, guys, I want you to be thinking about how you could, 1, fake with noise cues, and 2, spot for info before just fighting and committing to every angle. So then you would come out tunnel here, jiggle this if you want or not. I like to cross this angle hard. And just, if I think they have rifles, I like to pre-aim this. I'm confident with a left side flick. So if he's there, I'm going to flick. He's there, I'm going to flick. Right? Flick spray, kind of hybrid. Then, if he's not there, I committed, and I know he's closet. A lot of times, if he is playing an off angle, which we covered in the previous episode, off angles are like here, maybe. So I'll peek that, and then kind of like jiggle. Half jiggle door. Commit, and then a lot of times people will play off angles like here, somewhere in here. So that's when, if you have it cleared, like if you want, you could throw like a little smoke door, hold your gun out for a sec for the swing, and then do like, you know, one of those plays. And that's where you bring the utility in. But these ideas can be applied all across the map, where not everything needs to be just a committed peek. I think you guys should practice sometimes doing movement info peeks, and then expect the other peak. So if I do an info peek right here, where I think the guy might be cat, I'm going to jump spot that. Right when I land, I'm going to wait for the guy who's here to swing, right? So you just got to do these info peeks with good knowledge. Not everywhere they could fight you, and those are the good ones. Like when you do something like this, you could jump spot right there. If you see him and falls back, boom, charge him with a flash, and that's the difference. But I just want you guys thinking about peaks in a couple different ways. If you are going to commit, how can you create space for the guys behind you? If you want to stay alive, how can you do it with movement, but also by clearing things and expecting people, knowing you're making noise? And then 3, if you are going to commit to the fight and do damage, try to eliminate a couple angles before you do it and have a better pre-aim when you do commit. And the way you practice that is just on your own time running in a server like this, these pre-aims, so that you are more ready for the fight. But I think coupling it with expecting off angles, which we went over in the last episode, is going to help you understand how to peek more things. A lot of people might think this is the only angle you need to jiggle, or this is the only angle you need to jiggle. But a lot of times people play in the open in spots like this. So sometimes early round, you might want to jump across here, or do like a little jump jiggle, one of those jiggles. Jiggle this, but this is a really cool move I've learned. You jiggle like tight to the wall here. This wall is kind of bad to do it because they could spam through this, but sometimes I'll actually clear a close spot with my barrel. I think it's a very underrated play. If the guy's right here close, I'll go like this. I'll show my barrel. Now, this isn't my favorite spot to recommend you guys do that because they could spam you through the door. But on a corner like right here, when you think there's an opper, just doing this. Or if you think there's a rifler here, like shooting this and then just showing your barrel here. Or if you think the guy's here, you can literally walk, show your barrel, step, and expect him to peek into you. Super underrated. A lot of places you can do that across the map. And like if you wanna peek this guy. Or, let's see how I do this. If you want to peek this guy, but have this guy shoot at you, a good way to do it, you just go like this. You're not really committing to either, but you're ready for them to shoot at you, and then you backstep and fight. So just a couple tidbits on peaking for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. As per usual, share your thoughts on peaking. Anything I missed or you wish I would have talked about or wish I do talk about in the future episode, drop a comment, guys. And again, shout outs to AORUS for letting me use this beautiful 15p laptop, guys. Don't forget to check this bad boy out. Specs and link for more info are going to be in the description. See you guys in the next episode.